Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
And we're back.
Here we are again. It's been a week for you guys. It's been, 15 minutes for us. We took our potty breaks. Yep. We got our waters refilled. We did our chloroseptic and cough drops, our lozenges, whatever.
We did our vocal warm-ups.
Our oral demulcents, as it says on the bag.
And I don't know, I'm a 10-year-old boy. That just cracks me up.
Because the word oral was involved.
No, actually for me it's demulcent.
Oh.
Don't know why.
Well, now we know.
I also laugh at fart
I won't
jokes.
remember that word to say to you again. Unless I'm looking at the cough drop bag that's right there.
You could look at me and say pretty much any word you wanted.
It's true. If I say it right, it would just make you laugh anyway.
This is true.
So how's it going?
Good.
Eaten anywhere interesting lately?
No, but I've been cooking more lately.
Wow.
I got busy with work for like a year. And Joe was like, So recently I've been making a whole lot more effort to cook at home. And he's just like, wow, you do, this is great. You should cook more.
Yeah. When I was working at the restaurant, increasingly, especially when the pandemic hit and I was taking on waitressing stuff too, then I was like, just feed them whatever. And then I'd get home and he'd get me some food because I'd come home and just pass out on the back porch.
And when you're tired, you can't think creatively about food.
No.
It's like, I would eat
if
cereal.
you plan something though, you look at all the prep and you go, no.
That's why I love my freezer because I'll make stuff. So this week we're going to have some mystery meals because I put stuff in the freezer thinking I'll remember what this is.
No, don't do that.
Nope. So I said to Joe, we're going to have some mystery meals because I figure whatever it is, it's either a sauce or I can have it over pasta. Or...
Just end up with a sauce. You have to make sure you have some meat or something with it.
I'm
put it over rice.
I can put it over a potato or over rice or... I'll throw some collagen powder in there and call it good. I always have like cooked pork or chicken or something in the
Once more,
freezer.
Back when my children were young and I was in excellent shape and still had the will
and still
and impetus. And not only was I making them fresh things all the time and baking all the time, making them smoothies all the time, but I was prepping meals and shit like that.
Yes.
Oh, those magical days when I had energy.
You know what I did one day? What day was it? Friday. I had, so we had grilled steaks one night and I said to Joe, okay, we're going to grill an extra one so we can have it to put on salad. So Friday for lunch, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make steak salads for lunch. And then I'm like, I got the big reusable bowls to make salads in. So I made 8 salads with all the stuff in them and put them in the fridge. Because he went out to walk the dog and he comes back and he's like, I am not that hungry. I said, great.
It's not for right now.
Put these in the downstairs fridge. You're eating salad for lunch for the next 4 days. And he was like, okay. I could prep anything. He would just be like, I don't have to think about lunch. Great.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like my kids have been, I stopped making their lunches ages ago because they were old enough. But then I realized neither of my kids is bothering to do it anymore for like, after the whole year off for the pandemic thing happened, it broke everything. And so they stopped. And so my daughter was eating dinner. That was all she was eating. She was eating dinner each day.
Oh.
And then my son would come home and he'd be starving because he's a teenage boy. And then so he'd eat all this food and he'd still eat dinner. And I'm like, well, that's not good for him either. No. So I've actually started just one day I started making him lunches again. It took like several, it was rickety because
You're
first,
out of practice.
There was not for me, for them to remember they had lunches. So then I'd come down and the lunch is still sitting in the freezer, at least for one of them, or the fridge. But yeah, now that I'm doing it and I can they get carrots and celery and cucumbers and fruit. My daughter won't eat the freaking fruit unless I give her grapes. She'll eat grapes, I've learned. But I was giving her the little mini, they're not oranges, the little clementines. And then I noticed that because I put one in that was a little green on one side or whatever, and there it was in the fruit bowl the next day. So I knew she took it out before she left. But at least she's not throwing away food, right?
True.
But she's eating the veggies. And like I had shredded carrots so that I keep like a bag of shredded carrots so I can throw together a salad if I want to. And so I put those in there for her. So it was like a novelty. So she'll eat that. So whatever. But now they're actually eating at least 2 meals.
I mean, I got a bag of Cruciferous Crunch at Trader Joe's.
The fuck is that?
It's got kale and Brussels sprouts and all that good roughage stuff already all chopped up.
Yeah.
It's like a really fibrous slaw mix. And then I got regular coleslaw and I have romaine. So I just had to cut up the romaine and just throw a handful of each kind of slaw in on top of it because that will stay good.
Yeah.
I learned that from Becky Clark. You put in the slaw mix, that doesn't get all wilty and shit like regular lettuce.
That's good.
Romaine holds up fairly well. I mean, I didn't try to make a month's worth of salad.
No. I
would hope it would last till the end of the week, so we'll see. Of course, we both forgot yesterday. So.
Well.
Said, did you eat your salad? No, did you? No.
I used to like put together leftovers for lunches for my husband, and then he never remembered, and I was like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. I only did it when there was something left over to do it. He's a grown-ass man. He doesn't need me to make his lunches. But I was like, I hate wasting food, and I am consummately not, we'll say dieting for the ease of understanding. Yes. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to eat the leftovers because I just can't anymore. That'd be bad. I'm going to feed them to him. Because my kids don't eat the leftovers. There's like 2 microwaves in the cafeteria, right? So there is a means, but you'd have to stand in lunch for your 20-minute lunch.
To get to use the microwave.
Right. So that's not going to happen either.
No. I was such a mom. I used to make the girls homemade Lunchables. Yeah. So I had the little tiny cookie cutters and I would slice the cheese and cut out the ham and the cheese and then it got down to, that was only on the first day of school because I'm like, this is a fucking pain in the ass.
Yeah, I used to try and do like every little once in a while, like when we come back from break, basically. Yes. I would do like some big breakfast too that I could put in the crock pot when I went to bed and therefore would be ready for them when they got up because really I'm only going to bed a few hours before they get up. Right. So like, crock pot oatmeal with apple in it, with fresh apple. And then I had one, it's like a hash brown casserole. And so you put in just the pre-made shredded potato and like cheese and ham. It didn't even involve egg.
Oh, because I made one for the Girl Scouts that did involve egg. It was
and then I did like you have the little cupcake tin and then you put egg in it and you like make omelets because you put cheese and whatnot in those. And then I had those in the fridge. I haven't done that in years.
Those are good for...
I was a good mom at one point. Now I just am a mom of teenagers. So, their priorities change too. It's all good. That is true. I try to give them what they need now. And that apparently is... not cute little omelets for breakfast.
Yep. I can't remember what it was. I made a breakfast casserole. I started doing that when Joe and I did Whole30 because it's an elimination diet and boy, you eliminate a lot. But I would make this big 9x13 pan and that's like 5 breakfasts. Yeah. And I love that because I don't have to think about it. What can I have? What do I have to measure? It's just pull out a slab and go. So I made it a couple of weeks ago. And my God, by the end of the week, I was like,
fuck this food.
I'm tired of this.
I can't.
And it was a spaghetti squash crust. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if I ever make this again, first of all, dumbass, cook the spaghetti squash just a little bit longer. And for me, it's a texture thing. I needed to mix the spaghetti squash in, not have it as a layer as a crust.
Gotcha.
So...
that sounds good. I need to get that recipe for me, though. Okay. Because I have like a dinner one with that spaghetti squash. And then you microwave it. And then you... what do you do? Anyway.
Yeah, you microwave it and then you scrape it with the...
yeah, then you mix in all Italian seasonings and stuff. And I actually add it. It's meant to be a vegetarian one. And I can do it both ways. But it tastes really good with sweet Italian sausage in it.
Doesn't everything?
Yeah. So I have that. But then I was omitting the cheese because I couldn't have cheese. So, yeah. So I added protein.
I like it.
Voila. I haven't made that. And it's, I haven't even made chili. It's February. I need to
I'm
make
with
chili. And homemade spaghetti sauce I need to do without sugar because I'm no sugar. And yeah, I need to do this before it gets hot. As I was telling my husband when he was feeling all sad because he has to take down the canopy thing out back because we're getting weather. We're getting some snow and it might be substantial. And I was like, but just think, here in Colorado, by mid-March, we're having nice days again. We're having upper 60s some days, and then we're having, a blizzard.
Blizzards.
But you're having I'm like, we will have days in about a month and a half where we can sit on the porch again and do our thing because that's where we like to relax. And I'm like, see, just wait. We can do it.
It's coming.
And I went for a hike yesterday.
I saw that.
Because it was like 58.
What gets me is about halfway through February, all of a sudden I start screaming, I want a farmer's market and I want it now.
Oh, yeah.
And the growing season, if you're not in Colorado, the growing season starts late and it's short.
Yes.
So, it's not like the farmer's market's going to start in May. There's fucking nothing growing in May. There
might be some cold weather. There's some winter crops.
I mean, the planting date in Colorado, you're not supposed to put things in the ground until Mother's Day.
Yeah. So, and even then, you could still get a hard freeze.
You could get a hard freeze. You could get a foot of snow.
Yeah.
So.
And now we have a greenhouse, it's less of a problem because it actually maintains well if we get weather after that point.
I still want to sign up for CSA. Not with that farm we tried before.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm doing it again after that. And since we're doing HelloFresh, still, I wouldn't use all this. I was before, but now I wouldn't. But yeah, it was just it's too out there. And I tried to sign up for what is it? It's the one that's Ugly Foods or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I tried to sign up for that. I actually started the sign up process and then went to do the choosing the first week. As I've made clear, I live a different schedule than other people. By the time I got up, because apparently it would open up at 6 a.m. or something, 7 a.m., 8, I don't know. Early for me where I'm not up, everything was so picked over. People could choose.
Oh, I didn't realize it was.
I don't think they're all like this, but that ugly whatever thing
secondhand
was or misshapen.
Yes.
And so you went in and you kind of chose what you wanted. And so by the time I got to it, I was like, I don't want any of this shit that's on here. This is stupid. And then I canceled it.
Somebody out there listening is going, it's blah, blah, blah. They know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, and the thing is, I can't even say for sure it was the Ugly Foods one, but it was one of those remainder type ones where these aren't the pretty ones. There's multiple ones. It's not just
there's another one. Farm to Table.
Yeah. So I don't remember which one I signed up for, but it pissed me off. And I tried it for a couple weeks and I was like, I give up.
Well, the thing I didn't like about that one was it said Colorado farm to you or farm fresh or something. Yeah. And I am not kidding you. I went on Facebook. I went on their website. I emailed them. I tweeted them. I said, I would like to know. Door. I did everything. And I said, where are you getting your produce? Because you have the word Colorado in the title, and I got a fucking pineapple. And I know you're not growing those in Colorado.
That's funny.
So I was just like, I'm not, and I was very polite about it. I'm like, I'm not. It gives the impression that it's Colorado produce.
Yes.
So I'm just curious where you get it. I'm not dunning you or saying you're getting it any place wrong or bad, but could you tell me where you source your produce? They refuse to answer.
Fascinating. If you're refusing to answer something like that, you're hiding something.
Yeah. I went every option, every email I could find. You know how I can be fairly dogged when I feel irritated and, I want an answer, goddamn. I never got one. Weird. And so when people would because during the pandemic, people were posting about this I subscribe to this. And I'm like, do you know where they get I'm just curious. Do you know where they get their produce?
Nope.
No, I don't know. I thought it says Colorado. And I'm like,
nobody grows pineapple here.
Nobody's growing pineapple here. Although my sister-in-law grows pineapple in Florida.
Okay, but that's Florida. Yeah. You can grow citrus
she can grow anything. It's like she could just drop crumbs on the ground and stuff grows.
Oh, so jelly. I cannot.
I can't.
I used to have a magical touch with succulents, and then all of a sudden they all died, and now I cannot for the life of me keep even a succulent alive. I think I overwater them.
That could be.
My herbs are thriving, though, so I do have a window of stuff that's thriving. Love it. Just like growing things in my house. It's good for you.
I would like to have plants in my house, but I don't have a lot of good spots.
Yeah.
Window spaces for them, and
whereas this house is east-west and they put windows galore in it. So
I have a brown thumb. I killed a cactus once. It wasn't my fault.
I killed a cactus recently. I overwatered it.
I dropped something on it and it knocked it over and severed the roots. So,
jeez.
And then
I don't throw things at my succulents, at least.
It fell.
I just love them too much. That's what my problem is.
Stop hugging them.
Oh, fine.
Stop petting the cactus.
Fine.
Shall I begin?
If you're thinking of starting a podcast or even just starting to research it, Buzzsprout is your go-to source for information and hosting. They have tons of videos and write-ups on everything you need to know about recording and distributing a podcast, and they even provide easy ways to get analytics on how your podcast is doing. We use Buzzsprout for our podcast hosting, and through them we've been able to connect with tons of resources and distributors. Following a link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and helps support our show. A win-win. Not only do they help you get started, but they also do small things to encourage you, such as awarding you badges as you hit various milestones. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world.
With absolutely no segue whatsoever. We had such a beautiful segue last time.
I know.
And now we don't have one.
We should have worked out one intentionally. What's this about? Let's seg to it.
So I'm calling this one The Things You Find When You're Looking for Something Else. Which you're laughing because you know what it's about. My sources on this one were CNN, like 800,000 articles from CNN, the Daily Mail, and, of all things, People magazine.
Yeah, I had that in my last one, too.
Yeah, so that surprised me on both accounts. So what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to condense the beginning. So a lot of people have heard the story about Gabby Petito, who is a 22-year-old Florida woman who was reported missing by her parents on September 11th of last year. She'd been on a cross-country road trip with her boyfriend/fiance, Brian Laundrie. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, and I realize a lot of you have heard about this, or it's going to sound somewhat familiar. So, but I got a couple
it's not about her.
No, but I am going to give you the basics of that case. What came out later was that on August 12th, the Moab, Utah police had encountered the couple engaged in some kind of alteration. And I can't say for sure what happened because
altercation?
Uh-huh.
You said alteration.
Oh, did I? I meant altercation.
Like, were they modifying some clothing? Or
they were sewing by the side of the road.
Moab.
Wow. I didn't even, usually I hear myself.
Oh, like it. You were like, yeah. An altercation is what I thought.
They knew what I meant. Anyway, I can't say for sure what happened because it was called in. It's like people drove by and saw it and called it in. So there's no official report. I don't know if he hit her. There was a report that he may have slapped her. I don't know. He's a piece of shit, so probably did.
He proved that repeatedly.
Yes, he did. So when the police arrived, they said it was obvious that an altercation was happening, that they were not getting along. But both parties said separately, they did separate them and talk to them separately. They were in love, they were engaged, they were just having an argument, they didn't want any charges filed. So the police suggested that they spend at least the night apart and did make sure that each person had a cell phone so that if they needed anything, they could call the police or reach out to family or whatever. So I'm...
There's only so much you can do in domestics.
Yes. Especially when the people are saying there's no problem.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
Now, if the police had actually seen him hit her, they could have... It doesn't matter whether she wants to testify or not if they've seen it.
Yes.
So... Briefly, this was really weird. On August 17th, Laundrie flew from Salt Lake City back to Florida to take care of some things. Like he was closing their storage unit to get some more money for their trip. And then he flew back to Salt Lake City and rejoined her on August 23rd. So it's a really short trip. So on August 27th, the couple was again involved in an altercation at a restaurant in Jackson, Wyoming. Petito and Laundrie were believed to be in the Grand Tetons National Park. Her parents were getting regular texts from her talking about what they were doing, where they were going. So they knew that she was in the national park. The 27th was the last day that they got a text they know was from her. 2 separate witnesses reported picking Laundrie up while he was hitchhiking on August 29th. He told them that he had been hiking and camping solo along the Snake River while his fiancée remained by the van working on her travel blog. So one witness said she let him out at the Spread Creek camping ground, which is where Petito's body, her remains were eventually found later. And this is not, when I say campground, this isn't like, they actually had another name in there. It's not like Jellystone. It's not like a KOA. It's a really big spread out park where you can have different camping spots. So it wasn't a little confined area. So Laundrie returned to Florida on September 1st in the white vehicle he and Petito had been traveling in. On September 11th, Petito's family have been in contact with Laundrie and his family going, "Where is our daughter? Please tell us what's going on." So on September 11th, they reported her missing. When the police showed up at the Laundrie house to ask questions, they were in effect handed their lawyer's contact information and said, just talk to the lawyer. I mean, the fact that they said, here, talk to our lawyer, just screams guilt. It screams we've got something to hide. So on September 17th, oh, no, wait, I skipped something. No, lawyer. On September 17th, the Laundries did finally allow the police to come to their home to talk to them, but they said they hadn't seen their son since September 14th. So on September 18th, the police began searching the Carlton Reserve, which is a nature area with over 80 miles of hiking trails in Florida. At the same time, the FBI were conducting ground surveys in the Grand Teton National Park. September 19th, human remains are found in the park, which are later identified as Petito's. Cause of death is eventually ruled as strangulation. On October 20th, human remains are found in the Carlton Reserve, as well as personal items that belong to Laundrie. The remains were confirmed to be his, and the cause of death was determined to be a gunshot wound to the head. Apparently,
Coward.
I believe I actually used that word later on.
Oh, okay.
In the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Before they found his remains, they found some of his personal belongings, like a backpack and journals.
I do remember when that was announced.
Yeah, and he took responsibility.
In a journal, though.
Yeah. No, I don't mean it as he took responsibility.
Yeah,
He admitted guilt. That's a better way to say it. So I told you all of that, so I could tell you this. There are a lot of topics you could spiral out of this story. You could talk about what the police did and didn't do in Moab, although, like you said, they can only act on what they can see.
I'm sorry, people who just don't understand how awful domestics are. It's the most dangerous. 2 cops were recently killed responding to a domestic call.
Yes. The other thing is, one could question, were this couple treated perhaps a little differently because they were clean-cut white folks? You know, she was a little cute, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. So, of course, they couldn't be up to no good. They couldn't be doing anything too wrong. What consequences should Laundrie's family face for hiding and protecting their son, even though they did eventually lose? This is where I call him a cowardly piece of shit. I mean, I feel sorry for them for losing their son. However, he took someone else's life and hid and lied and ran away like a titty baby.
So I can feel, I get it. You're going to defend your child.
I do get that.
At the same time, there's a family desperately wanting to know where their daughter is, and they were protecting their son. And I feel like they had to have known he'd done something. It's one thing protecting your child who you believe is innocent.
Yes.
And yes, you should take precautions so that he gets for example, fair trial. So you want to get him representation. But to block the police from getting for information, not encouraging your child to... her parents want to know where she is. Just tell them so they can stop being sick about that. I mean, they'll still be sick about it when they know what happened,
Yes.
but man up, you little bitch. Yeah. So for that, I mean, they didn't do anything that made her get killed. Right. But they kept the answers.
But they prolonged the agony of her parents. I'm going to take a slightly different branch because there's just a lot of weird shit around this case. Some of which is connected and some of which is not. So, one of the details that I will flesh out that I didn't earlier was that when the police were searching for laundry, they were getting tips about sightings from the fucking coast, one coast to the other. New England to California to the Appalachian Trail and along the route that the two had traveled. Because they did go back and do some investigation along that route. Because, again, she was documenting their travels. In the middle, while they were still searching, in the middle of this search for laundry, there was a freakishly similar case, which I hadn't heard about. Emily Ferlazzo, have you heard about her?
I don't think so.
Okay. Her husband went to her parents' home in New Hampshire and told them he hadn't seen her in several days. She was missing. The two of them had driven their renovated camper to Vermont to celebrate their first anniversary. So her parents report her missing. The very next day, Joseph Ferlazzo confessed to shooting her and dismembering her in the camper. Ugh. And the police located the camper, the weapons, the remains.
All right, that's quick.
And despite his confession, he pled not guilty.
See, that always irritates me, but then the thing is, they usually even the judge will encourage you pleading not guilty so that you have a fair trial. That's what I've recently read, which illuminated a little, because it makes me mad. I'm like, if we all fucking know you were guilty,
you could
just plead guilty and be done and save the taxpayers money, but then it's not considered a fair trial.
So this got a little bit of attention at the same time because everybody felt like it was the same kind of situation. Can you imagine being married to someone for 1 year and being so angry with them that not only do you kill them, but you cut them into pieces?
I mean, I think around our 3-year point, I could imagine that. That was probably our worst, like, in our marriage. But I just always am like, divorce them.
Yeah, abandon them.
Leave them and don't get the divorce if that's the issue and you know it's going to be hard. Just fucking walk.
Kill yourself. I am not advocating
There are so many answers. But yeah, it's just, it always blows. But it just... How many crimes are committed spouse on spouse like that? And I'm like, just leave them. You don't have to kill them.
Exactly.
How does your brain, what kind of person are you and how are you wired if your response is to murder them instead of being like, hey, we're done.
Yeah.
We're through.
I don't get it. Plus, I am very lazy. It would be much easier to leave them than to murder them.
I am a person who runs on rage, and I still haven't. First of all, I've been married over 25 years now. I think it'll be 26 this year. But if I can resist it, I feel like other people can. Because I am the Hulk, and there's always rage under the surface, and I haven't fucking done it.
So, while they were searching for Petito's remains, the woman's remains, this prompted several families to campaign for more attention and vigilance for similar cases that didn't receive the same amount of media or police attention. So one, which was very similar, Lauren Cho of New Jersey disappeared on June 28th in the Yucca Valley of California, where she was last seen with friends and an ex-boyfriend at an Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And apparently she got in an argument with them and walked off into the night, leaving everything, leaving her cell phone and her clothes and all of her belongings. And it wasn't until Petito disappeared that the police renewed the effort to look for this woman. And human remains were found near the site on October 9th and later ID'd as Cho. The cause of death has not yet been determined.
Foul play is suspected on my part.
Yeah. In another freakish twist, And this one sort of has a local connection. You probably know what I'm going to talk about. On their trip, Petito had posted on Instagram from the Monument Rocks in Douglas County here in Colorado in early July. The same day that she posted, in Douglas County, Sarah Bayard went missing. She was last seen at a gas station in Parker on June 28th and was reported missing on July 4th. Her remains were found off of Highway 83 on October 9th. Cause of death has not yet been determined.
In Highway 83, so was it between Parker and Colorado Springs?
It had to have been.
Yeah.
So, So nobody knows what happened to her. After several people reported seeing laundry in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the police in Watauga County, North Carolina, discovered the remains of 33-year-old Yasu Calderon of Rhode Island.
Okay.
They're like, so that's why they're on alert, because they think laundry is here, but then they get the call for a body and they're hot to get out there. The cause of death was stabbing. 2 men were arrested for a murder in Rhode Island, one of whom was a close friend of his. They are suspected in his death, but it hasn't been proved yet. I'm not even sure if they've been charged yet, but they're searching for laundry. They turn up a dead man from Rhode Island in North Carolina.
What I'm learning is don't go with other people to national parks
Apparently,
and stuff like that.
Except me. I'm not going to kill you.
You won't kill me.
No. This is the point where you're supposed to say, and I would not kill you, MP.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would not kill you, MP. Again, I'm the Hulk, and I can't guarantee it. No, I'm just kidding. If I haven't killed my husband, I'm not going to kill you. Does that help?
It does.
Okay.
Although your husband and I have talked about the fact that one of us will die in their
One of
sleep.
you will.
That is a conversation we have in fact had.
Oh, what must people of the public think of me right now?
Okay, so another case. 19-year-old Maya Mercano went missing 2 weeks after Petito, and her family has called out authorities for not giving this case attention. Mm-hmm. So she was reported missing. Oh, were you going to?
No, I just want to say, and in Petito's family's defense, they actually made public statements about they recognize that their daughter got more attention that was not fair, and everybody should.
Yes.
So I just want to put that out there.
Oh yeah, they're totally
yes.
And it will come around.
Okay.
I will. But she was reported missing on September 24th when she missed a flight out of Orlando to South Florida because her family was in South Florida. She was going to school in Orlando. She worked part-time at an apartment complex and lived at the apartment complex. She just vanished. So the sole suspect in her death was a maintenance man at the apartment complex who investigators believe let himself into her apartment with his master key and waited for her. So there's a lot that still isn't known because he hanged himself on September 27th. So 3 days later, and her body wasn't found until October 2nd in a nearby wooded area. She had been bound with duct tape in several spots, like our wrists and ankles. And the death was ruled a homicide. But her family made the point, if you had stepped up and actually looked for this woman who wasn't blonde hair or blue eyed, perhaps we would have found her before he killed her.
Yeah.
On September 20th, reports of laundry sightings near Tillman's Corner, Alabama, led to the discovery of a man's body in a Walmart dumpster. The police later stated it was an unrelated case, and it was the body of an unnamed homeless man.
Okay.
Which I think is tragic in and of itself.
Yeah.
But that is not what today is about. While searching in the Tetons for Petito's body, searchers found the remains of Bob Lowry, a 46-year-old man from Houston who disappeared on August 20th, and that death was ruled a suicide. So because of the search for these two, they found so many other bodies.
Yeah.
And it also brought out...
I feel like a big search needs to be... I know they weren't all found in like parks, state parks, national monument, yada, yada, yada. But some of them were. And I feel like maybe there should just be like, I don't know, random checks of the parks at this point anywhere.
Well, the guy... Yasu Calderon, who was found in North Carolina, He was in a ravine at the bottom of a scenic overlook, so they can't even figure out.
You know how many people stood over that and didn't know there was a body under them?
Exactly. And they're like, the police were like, we can't figure out when they even dumped him. I mean, they had the car, they think they had the car and the license plate number, but they were like, when the fuck did they drive up here and dump a body that there weren't 85 people gawking at the sunrise or the sunset or something in between?
It's funny because there's a scenic overlook north of our city, right? That kind of looks at the Air Force Academy and the mountains and all that. And we drove by in the dark the other night and there were 3 cars parked there at night when you can't see jack. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why are they there?
Yeah. So what I'm going to close with is Petito's parents recently founded the Gabby Petito Foundation to address the needs of organizations that support locating missing persons and to provide aid to organizations that assist victims of domestic violence situations. So they were very well aware that their daughter was getting a disproportionate amount of attention, and they don't feel that's right. They feel like everybody's child, everybody who's missing should get this amount of attention.
Yeah.
In the media and from the police.
Yeah, I really feel for her family. They seem like good people.
They were, and some of the stuff, I of course, I can't go into every single tiny little detail, but they were just crushed. I mean, they were begging this family, please tell us anything. They were, because the two had been together for a while, and they were engaged, so they're calling the parents, they're trying to call him, please just, do you know where she is? Where's the last place you saw her? What? Please, because I have to believe in the beginning they thought, she's missing. Where was the last place you saw her? You know, they wanted to believe that she was missing, not that he'd killed her.
Yeah.
So.
Giving him the benefit of the doubt, but wanting to know where the hell their daughter was. Because I know for a while they're like, he might have left her somewhere. Somebody else might have hurt her.
Or, you had a fight and drove off. Okay, that sucks. You're a shitty human being. But where did you leave her? Could we maybe go get her?
Here's the thing. Like, so many abusers have witnessed abuse of their mothers and stuff like that. Makes me wonder about that too. But if I wasn't so irked with his parents, maybe I wouldn't wonder that. But also, I've been reading about that in a book recently, so it's on my mind.
So, what have you got that'll...
Well, I'm doing part 2 to Runaway Train, and it's not happier for the most part.
Oh.
Because, and again, so Runaway Train was a song by Soul Asylum, and I don't know how thoroughly I explained that last time, but again, a song about depression, and in it, they said... It was the producer and a couple of the guys at the head of the band were like, we're going to put these missing kids out there, And it was a very striking video. But yeah, I don't have happy stories for it simply because the runaways that returned home, it wasn't really publicized. Mm-hmm. I searched on each individual's name and there's just nothing.
Oh.
But you could tell, say, this person must have been found and probably alive, right? Because otherwise there's tales of their murder, right? Because they're no longer on the Charlie Project. They're no longer listed missing on any of these big sites. So, unfortunately, it's basically process of elimination. And again, the Reddit people, the web sleuths, all that stuff, it's all they can do too. And they are trying to fill in the gaps. So, I have what I have. But this time it is those who were found from the video. Sources, Wikipedia, Charlie Project, The Time Standard, SF Gate, Wikipedia again. Sorry. Can't stop myself from saying it. My mouth moves faster than my brain. Ranker, Sun Sentinel, Domestic Violence Database, True Crime Society, The Missing, Murdered, and Reunited of Runaway Train by Lawsy, Web Sleuths, The Lost Children of Runaway Train by Elon Green, and Mail Magazine, Reddit, YouTube video by Crime Crusader, and there we go. Last week, I covered the kids still missing from the original Soul Asylum video for Runaway Train. This week, I'm covering some of those whose cases were resolved. That's a better way to say it, isn't it? I should have been saying that the whole time. Look at me. And again, I personally think little baby Tommy Gibson's murder is resolved too. But I included him last week. I went back and forth. All I would have to do is cut and paste. I wasn't able to track down all the names of those in the original video, but of the version that I was able to find online, there is something about each of those kids.
In an article on True Crime Society written by Lozzy, it's Lozzzy, there's not a full name attribution, was incredibly useful for getting information on some of them, as were threads on Reddit and web sleuths. Elizabeth Wiles ran away with her 18-year-old boyfriend when she was 14 and living in Lamar, Arkansas. They'd gone to California and were working to support themselves, barely making ends meet. When she saw herself in the video, she called home, afraid that her boyfriend would get in trouble. Instead, her mother dissolved into tears, and 5 weeks after that, she returned home. She's now an adult. She's happily married, not to him. In an interview at 39 years old, she said she ran away because her mom told her she couldn't keep seeing her much older boyfriend. After returning home, she got her GED. She never was able to complete college. She started but didn't complete it. She went on NBC with 2 members of Soul Asylum and her mom, and she was the first one to return home after the video was released. So,
well, that's a happy ending.
It is. I probably should have said that for the end, shouldn't I?
Let's just stop there. Thank you for tuning in this week.
That's all. Oh, sadly, no. But, yeah, I don't think her dad was in the picture. Okay. This one was the one that actually showed up on some of the old articles about it as still being one of the 11 missing, and the reason it went down to 10 when I was doing my research that were still missing. Okay. Andrea Bowman went missing March 11th, 1989 from Hamilton, Michigan. She was 14 years old, white with brown hair. Andrea had been adopted at 21 months from someone down in Louisiana, I believe New Orleans specifically. So when she reported to teachers at her school that she was afraid to go home because her father was molesting her, her parents told police she was just acting out because she'd found out she was adopted recently. And it was a bot. Sadly, she disappeared soon after. She was considered a runaway. Of note, her father, Dennis Bowman, had been charged with luring a woman into the woods and assaulting her in 1980, 9 years before his adopted daughter went missing. He had worked out a plea deal and pled guilty at that time. In 1998, he broke into a coworker's home and stole her lingerie, among other things. In November 2019, he was arrested for the September 11th, 1980 murder of a 25-year-old woman named Kathleen Doyle. He then admitted to having killed his adopted daughter, saying it was an accident. He got mad. It happened accidentally. Her remains were found under cement, a thin layer of it, near the home at that time. He was convicted of the Doyle murder May 15th, 2020, and given 2 life sentences. He has not been sentenced for Andrea yet. His charges for her are murder, child abuse, and mutilation. She wasn't going home, and the teachers brought it up with her. And she told them. And the mother, now the mother has turned on her husband, but it's too fucking late. You need to believe your kids. You need to at least give them the benefit of the doubt, right? They say believe victims, and sometimes supposed victims are lying, but you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, and you've got to look into it first.
And get them out of the situation.
Yes. But with molestation, there's not physical marks. It's not like you can go and see bruises on this child and say, we're not going to buy your excuses. So it's sad the system failed her. It's sad that CPS wasn't brought in to at least do some sort of, and the thing is, this guy's got to have other victims. He didn't wait from 1989 to 1998. He didn't wait. There's more. So, yeah. I feel like there's more that could come out eventually that he did. Allegedly. So I'm going to just throw that in there for legal reasons. Allegedly. But it's me saying it. Allegedly, I feel like he killed other people.
Yes.
All right. Curtis Hunsinger disappeared May 19th, 1990 in Blue Lake, California. He was 14 years old. Curtis had told his parents that a family friend, 35-year-old Stephen Hash, had been molesting him. When police talked to him, he took it back. He said, no, I was lying. Within 2 weeks, he disappeared from his sister's house. Because he'd been troubled lately, it was assumed he'd run away. But in 1999, Curtis's mom got into a fight with Stephen Hash, and he told her he'd killed her son.
Oh, my God.
He took her. She didn't believe him, and he took her to a site where he said her son was buried. But then when she went to the police, he refused to speak to the police, and he wouldn't admit it to them. So police get a warrant and they search his house and they don't find anything. And then they look where the mom said that the body was, but they don't find anything because it was like a big
Park area. I actually have a picture of where the body was found, but not the body that I'll post. In 2001, Hash's wife reports to the FBI that her husband has admitted to killing Curtis and burning him. It wouldn't be until December 2008 there's enough information to arrest Hash. He showed them where the body was, which they did find, and he was actually interconnected with tree roots. And you can see in the picture of the grave, there's just this tangle of tree roots that had hit there. In 2009, Curtis's body was put to rest, and Hash got 11 years for manslaughter and had to pay about $9,000 in restitution to the family.
11 years?
Yes, I believe it was a statute of limitations issue on that, and that's why it had to be a lesser.
On
murder.
Murder.
I don't know.
Okay.
There was something about it that made it a statute, and I believe that changed after a while. Okay. So I think that's fairly recent.
Okay.
So this was before, and they didn't go back and change it. Ginger Sue Hudson went missing in 1992. She turned up alive and well within a few months of the video's release. It's all the information I have. Heather Lee Yeagle disappeared February 7th, 1990 from Largo, Florida at age 16. Was that one of my others, or is that just his name that was similar to Largo? There's no word on whether she's been found. There are arrest and domestic violence reports online for a woman of the same age with the same full name in Missouri, who some internet sleuths think is her. And again, she's been pulled off the missing persons reports.
Okay.
So, here's the one that people will recognize. Polly Kloss.
Oh, yes.
She was on the video. Was 12 years old when a man broke into her bedroom the night of a sleepover in Petaluma, California, and kidnapped her at knife point. He left the other two girls tied up with pillowcases over their heads. At the time, I believe he was homeless. He walked in from the kitchen with a knife from the kitchen into it, or the parents were sleeping or whatever. It was about 10:30 p.m. A few hours later, in a neighboring county, a babysitter passed a car pulled over on her employer's property. She called the employer when she could, because we're talking, pre-cell phone, really. Right. And the employer opted to take her young daughter and leave the property, because it was a woman who owned it. And until it could be ascertained who was on the property, she left right away, and she drove past him and his truck on her property, went to a service station and called 911 to get the cops to go out there. Since the cops were on a different channel from the cops around where Kloss had disappeared, they had no idea there was a little girl missing 20 miles away.
Right.
So they had no communication about that, had no idea. And they were suspicious of him, but they searched his truck. He let them search his truck. And they didn't find anything. There was an open container of beer in there, but since he wasn't driving, they couldn't even do anything about that. So they documented it and they filled out, because they were like, there's something going on, but we got nothing.
But we can't figure out what. Okay.
So they did do a report, but they let him go and they escorted him off the property. So, because the owner, they actually tried to get the owner to press charges for trespassing, because then they could have arrested him. And she was like, no, I just want him off my property.
Why was he there?
You're going to find out.
Okay.
And his truck they ended up having to get a tow truck to pull him out of a ditch where his vehicle was. But yeah, there's much more to it than that. So they let him go. And on November 28th, the owner of the property was inspecting an area that had been cleared by loggers, and she found a pair of torn ballet leggings and some other suspicious items. Those leggings had probably been used for some sort of, tying her up, because there was a piece of them back at the crime scene too. So that's when they were torn. And so they were able to compare them, right? Anyway, she finds a couple other items and she calls the cops, and she's like, okay, something's up. And they started looking into the man who'd been trespassing, Richard Allen Davis. And they were actually able to find a partial print at the kidnapping site and compare it to him. And it matched. So he'd been in trouble in the past for kidnapping and assault, and would have still been in prison for the kidnapping he was in prison for if he'd served his full sentence. He served half of it. He would have still been in prison and not been able to take Polly Kloss had he been fucking kept in prison for what he'd already done. Neighboring departments, the FBI, and over 500 searchers would ultimately comb the area. Other than other bits of evidence, no body was found. But when they arrested Davis on suspicion of the kidnapping, he confessed he'd killed her. He was able to take them to her body, which was not on that property. He'd taken her body into the woods there. Mm-hmm. And he had done the things he was doing. And he saw those two cars, the babysitter and the owner, drive by, and he was afraid the police had been called, but then his truck was stuck. So he left her body out there and he hid it in the woods. And then after he was done with the cops and they escorted him off the property, he waited, he went, drove somewhere and stopped. And then he came back and he got her body and he moved it to the place where he would ultimately bury it. So he was arrested. He was convicted June 18th, 1996 for first-degree murder, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, and a lewd act on a child. He flipped off the cameras. So he flipped out when he got the guilty. And I have a picture, I'll post it, of him flipping off the cameras in the courtroom. He stated that Polly's last words had been that her father was molesting her and further taunted the family. He was just overall an awful human being. By the way, there was no evidence of molestation, never been claimed before. So it was looked into. But what a thing to do to that dad.
Yeah.
He did that on purpose.
He did.
To fuck with the family.
What a shit stick.
Yeah. And just a famous aspect of this case is that Winona Ryder went on television, offered a $200,000 reward for Polly's safe return, and dedicated her role in Little Women to her because Winona was also from Petaluma. And Polly's death led to a change in how missing children notices went out to police so that there would not be the channel issue anymore. It also fixed communication like that in general. Because that's not far away. That's a 20-minute drive. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And her death was also instrumental in the passing of the California 3 strikes law. Her case was used for that. Okay. So I don't know if he should have had, I don't know.
Right.
Because I decided not to look further into that. Michelle Fraley went missing in 1992 and was found shortly after the video came out. She'd said to have confronted band members at a later concert and to have stated that the music video ruined her life because her home life had been bad. That's what she'd been fleeing. And after the video, when she was out there everywhere, she ended up going back home to that bad situation. Yeah. Others who were missing and appear to have been found because their names have been removed from missing person sites and there are no news articles about their murders is Christina Ann Wood, who went missing December 2nd, 1991 at age 15 from Live Oak, Florida with a male companion. Darlene Hungerford, missing in 1991. Emily Tamara Pla disappeared in 1992 and is believed by web sleuths to be alive and possibly have an arrest record for shoplifting in Colorado. Berenice Espinoza went missing in 1992 but was supposedly found alive. No other information. In total, 21 kids were said to have been reunited with their families or to have at least contacted them. So at least 21 of those 26. Yeah. That's not too shabby, pretty much because a band put out a song and said, you know what, let's do like the milk cartons. Let's get these kids some exposure. And the thing is, they had to kind of fight for it because it basically came across as a PSA instead of a video. The video, when you're watching it, shows runaways. Yeah. But then in the end, it starts showing some of them might not be runaways. The kids that are listed as runaways might have been taken or hurt and that they should be looked into because that was kind of the argument from them. And so, again, there's no graphic violence on the video, but the imagery it sticks with people. But yeah, they tried to get them, obviously music companies and MTV and all that. Nobody was really comfortable with this. They're like, nobody wants to watch a PSA. And yet it stuck with us all this time.
Yeah.
Who saw it?
And it got results.
And then, yeah. Okay, so I did mention before that in the UK and Australia versions, 4 of those victims were said to be from those serial killers. At least 2 others were found to have been murder victims in those places too. But again, I didn't go deeply into it. On the web sleuths and stuff, there were people who had gone into all the videos and done what they could. But apparently, the Australia video is no longer available anywhere. Oh. So they got their list of names from somebody who had posted the names and information from the videos before it had been removed everywhere. So they're not sure why Australia has had that removed everywhere. I'm just going to do a reminder to view the updated version, which uses geolocation. Go to runawaytrain25.com and view the video with your local information. If you know somebody who's missing, they actually have a way for you to create your own video on there as well that missing person.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a hopeful note.
Yeah. the last one and the new one that's out. And I couldn't find anything more on the new one other than that at least one person had been brought home within a few months of it being released in 2019. So there just wasn't a ton about it on there. I mean, they have their whole website, but it doesn't.
I can't even imagine what it would be like to have your child go missing.
No, because you just don't know. And okay, we have active imaginations. I can guarantee you I would have, how long have I been studying serial killers and all of that stuff, all the psychology of it, but that means reading about the cases. I would know every possible thing that could be happening. I have such a hard time. My son, it would be, but here's the thing. You see that some of these full-grown males are being taken too. There's ways that can happen. I tend to be a little more comfortable with him because, first of all, he's been ungodly strong since he was in the womb. Like, good luck. Because he's a calm, sweet person, but he's strong as hell. My daughter's tiny. So even at 14, like, we have to let her do stuff. Like, go somewhere on her own. And then we just sit there and worry because I refuse to be a helicopter parent. Like, I am tempted to just quietly follow her if I let her walk to, because there's stuff nearby she can walk to. And I'm like, and so we just sit there and freak out basically because she's so tiny. So yeah, it's nerve-wracking. And again, if you were around in the 80s and 90s when it was in your face all the fucking time, how many kids were missing and they weren't yet developed enough in that research and all to be able to tell you, no, it's people they know more so than stranger kidnappings. Well, and of course there's plenty of those too.
Yeah, there's one I want to do. I can't do it yet because it's in the court system. So there's no resolution. Yeah. And since it looks like there's going to be a resolution, I don't want to go into too much detail. But it was a young man who was home on spring break. It's in upstate New York. He was home on spring break and he went to a party and never came home. And everybody's like, what happened? And people saw him out walking. And this was a few years ago. And I do mean a few. I don't mean my few years ago, which means 1992. So my sister was driving into town one day and there's all these cops at this old farm. And of course, there's the grapevine up there is magnificent. Yeah. You can find out
rural upstate New York.
Oh my God. So, and they found somebody had to have talked because his remains were down a well.
Yeah.
That was covered over. And I'm not going to say who. They think they know who did it. They think it was either he got in an argument. It may have even been an accident that one of the people, and it was two guys, that one of them hit him with a car and they covered it up. But they drove him. Whatever happened, they took his body, whether he was dead at that point or not, and chucked it down a well.
Yeah.
So I hope the people who did it are found and convicted.
Well, and so one of the cases I talked about last week where she had arrived on the bus from Houston to, what was it? Was that the Davenport, Iowa one? I don't remember for sure.
But I remember the Houston part.
They said she'd made it to the bus station, but never made it to her dad's house there. I'm just like, I assume that the dad was looked at because I can't help but think of the Dylan Redwine case here in Colorado.
Yes.
Which we heard a lot about because we know a retired FBI profiler who was brought in to, everybody fucking knows it was his dad. But last I heard, it still could not be proven enough for them to take him to court, and they want the evidence because I know people get upset when they're like, why aren't you pressing charges on this person? But sometimes it's because double jeopardy, they don't want to try that case until they're fairly confident they can win it. Because if you try that case and lose it, that's it.
You can't try them again.
You find more later, you're done. You might be able to try and levy different charges. But yeah, so it's a tightrope. But yeah, it just makes me think of that. And how many times is it Andrea Bowman that I talked about today? It was her fucking dad. And when you go missing just a couple weeks after reporting molestation, you know what's heartbreaking about that case too that I didn't say? She was given up for adoption when she was like 21 months old. Her parents were very young. And they both had bad family lives and they both wanted to give better, right? And so they kept this child. And then the man started cheating on the mom. The dad started cheating on the mom. And then he pretty much left her, and she was like, I can't give her a good life.
She couldn't.
And so she gave her up for adoption so she would have a better life. And instead, and her name is out there, by the way. I just didn't want to put her name out there anymore. Fair. But they had talked to her. I mean, she knows what happened to her daughter. She knows she gave her daughter up for a better life, and instead she was molested and abused by this man and then murdered by him. And how terrible.
Yeah, you think you're doing the right thing. Yeah, because
she's going to be racked with guilt for the rest of her life.
Because she did what she thought was the right thing for all the best reasons.
Yes.
I can't do this.
Yes.
I want her to have a better life.
She's going to have the life I had if I don't make sure she gets a better home. Because they check these people out. But tell me, well, his crime was after, because she was 14 or something like that, I think, 14 or 15. And that crime that he pled guilty for was after they had her then. Because it had been 9 years before. So yeah, I just thought of that. So he wouldn't even have had that criminal record.
And how long was that abuse going on?
When a man does that, why isn't CPS automatically called in a case like this when he kidnapped and assaulted a woman in the woods, and he's an adoptive father? I thought they were up their asses when they were adopted. They certainly are before they get adopted. So yeah, it just. But that one really that hurts.
CPS is another.
Oh, I know.
Overworked and understaffed. And,
and a lot of stuff gets through the cracks.
And it's not. There obviously are cases where people are looking the other way.
Yeah.
But there's a tidal wave of kids who need help and not enough people to help them. Yeah. And to supervise every single aspect of everything. That's why, and it just irks me to no end, they have to depend on volunteer organizations to provide that help, that supervision, that assistance, because it's not there. It doesn't exist.
It's a terrible system. And again, referencing that book, The Body Keeps the Score, there's a lot of talk in there because he's an MD who wrote it, is big on CPTSD needing to be in the DSM. Mm-hmm. And it's really, when he wrote the book, it was being refused. And they were only having classic PTSD, which mostly has to do with military veterans.
That's
people
like
who are in car accidents and people raped. So to get the diagnosis of PTSD, you have to be able to remember what happened to you. And a lot of children who suffered serious molestation at young age and stuff like that actually have blocked it so thoroughly they can't get diagnosed with PTSD, even though they have the CPTSD. So anyway, it's much bigger than that, but highly simplified. But it's just, the guy who wrote the book is so frustrated because he's like, he did studies, he did all the right things that they told him to do, and it was still rejected from the DSM. So he's like, we can't help these children. These children then are adults who have all of these issues, and it's just such a chronic problem. And if we can't fix it at the beginning, we certainly can't really fix that at the end. The damage has been done, and it's actually at a cellular level because children of survivors end up having these things too.
Yes.
So it's fascinating stuff, but it's sad because all these kids who live in these, I was a manager at a theater and one of my employees was being abused by her foster parents. She was disabled.
Oh, God.
And they took in were disabled kids because they got extra money for that.
Yep.
And they did not treat them well. They weren't well cared for. And I turned them in and nothing came of it. There was nothing else I could do except for I tried to take care of her when I could. But I was I was 19.
Yeah.
So there was only so much I could do. And legally, it would have been kidnapping had I tried to get her. Yeah. So, and it's just, that was, for me, that was what opened my eyes to how problematic foster homes can be. And of course, I know at least 2 in my personal circle, foster parents who are delightful and will give those kids such wonderful lives.
I know exactly. I know one of them.
One of them. One of them I went to high school with. Yeah. It was a different one. But, most of the people providing foster care are doing it because they genuinely want to help these kids.
Yes.
And...
Well, the friend that we have in common was only wanted to take in a certain age.
Teenagers, because fewer people take them.
Right. And it turned out they had a teenager they wanted her to take in, but there was a younger sibling involved, and she said, we are not separating them.
Because that was going to be the answer.
Both.
Yeah.
So
now she has teenagers herself, and now she's about to have an extra teenager. She's had the younger sibling for a while. So, but just, I don't want to soil fostering, but there are ones who do it just for the money too.
There are.
And it's like the people who, I don't know, adopt a rabbit at Easter and then don't realize how much work it's going to be. Or adopt a Dalmatian, because I hate to compare the kids to animals, but you hear about this shit all the time, but not the foster stuff.
The bunnies
adopt
and the chicks.
Adopt a Dalmatian because of the movie and then find out that they are pains in the ass, so these foster parents taking these kids thinking they'll make some money, it'll be easy. It's not going to be easy bringing up any child, but B, a child who's possibly been in the system or seen something horrific before they were even put in the system. Say their parents got killed, or their parents were abusive, or they were molested, and they have then they further that abuse, because they weren't prepared for it, or because they're awful people. But again, I can see it happening with people who maybe did think it was.
But here's the thing. What gets written into pop culture are the bad cases.
Yes.
Because that's what gets the headlines.
Yeah.
Not that we shouldn't shine a light on it. I totally think we should. But we could both think of authors who have used that trope.
Yeah.
Somebody's running away from the foster system, or they're complaining because they were in the foster system. Look at the TV show Mom. The Allison Janney character grew up in the foster system. So, nobody shines a light on what's good.
Had these great foster parents that finally it was a stable place for this poor teenager who had been in this so just bearing it all in mind.
Oh my God, we need to tell a joke or something to end this.
If Alexa were in here, I could ask her, because you can say, Alexa, tell me a dad joke. And my husband's been doing that to torment me lately. And I can't even for the life of me think of one of those damn jokes.
I can't either.
He likes to just randomly throw one at me.
What was it yesterday? I don't know what I was trying to ask Alexa, and I called her Siri.
And she was like, bitch, come back when you know my name.
Yeah. I was like, Siri is the Apple, right? The Apple.
Oh product? Yeah, because I think I have that on my phone.
Because I don't have any Apple products, so I don't have Siri.
I don't like Apple, so we won't be ever funded by them. But I do have some Apple products.
I don't like Apple either.
Yeah, well, so my kids had a dad joke battle. It's funny. So my daughter's very literal because she is autistic, right? And at first she was like, Jeff was just, or my husband, driving her nuts. And then they were like, we can do this. And then it was just the two of them dad joking at me. It was terrible. I believe I posted on Facebook asking for help and rescue. And it did not come. I just want people to know. But it was pretty amusing. Yes. All right, guys. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for tuning in. And we will be back next week with something equally.
We can't guarantee anything. I would say we'd try to do something lighter next week. And if I actually do the topic I was intending to do this time, it's a little dark, but it's not child victim dark.
I have one that I'm thinking about doing that's resolved. It's a resolved issue. So it's not one of those, and they're all missing, and all they found were chewed on bones. It's not going to be one of those.
Although now I should know that I have 3 pages on yellow lined notebook paper of stories I want to do. So, and then inevitably it's like the TBR pile, but you go to the store and you get a new book instead and read it. So I have all these topics, but I didn't think of something else like this. It was just hearing the song and I was like, oh,
well, I was researching something else when I came across all the bodies that were found while they were searching for these two.
Yeah.
So, and I have to confess, I have the Murder a Day calendar. So there are some really interesting things out there that I'm like, so some of them I'm saving.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'll come back to this. And one of them I'm like, It was funny because I was like, oh, I remember this. And I start reading the details. I'm like, oh, the fuck, I do not.
Well,
I
but that's true
the name.
so much. Like you think of, I skip certain cases because I'm like, well, these are so well known. Although sometimes then I do well known ones because I think there are ones that people like, I as a true crime person will still tune in to certain ones, even though I've heard it a billion times. So I do throw those ones in there. But then you look at them and you're like, huh, this is completely different from what I remember. And I've done those, right? Where I've been, here's what I remembered.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see the difference between what you remember and what actually happened. What we need is another good cryptid, but...
Yeah, I have a couple, not necessarily cryptids, but some other things. So maybe we'll have to do a cryptid one soon. Maybe we'll do that for when because, all right, we're not going to take an actual season break this time around. We'll just switch our seasons, but we're going to pre-record a few so we do get a break.
Yes.
And hopefully... I for really real will get a break if I have the time to do stuff ahead of time instead of doing it Tuesday like I usually do for editing the podcast and uploading it. But maybe like one of those we'll make sure is a fun one at least.
Yes.
Okay.
We could do that.
We'll try. Because
I just stumble across stuff and go, oh, fuck, I'm writing about this
right,
way.
But that's the thing. And I'm going clicking on articles and doing
I have a Pinterest
recently.
board now. For ideas. It's a hidden Pinterest board. So
don't go you need to make a public one.
But no, they're my ideas that I haven't.
Do you want people to not steal them, or you don't want them to read them before you say them?
That's it. I don't want them to read about them before I talk about them.
All right, fair enough.
So,
and I'm gonna say bye again this time for realsies.
I'll say bye too then.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.